welcome to Christ in Culture. My name is Jeff Short. This is Mel McGinnis, and we're continuing to talk about, in this second part, the situation that we have a vacancy on the Supreme Court, and we've been talking about the legacy of Kennedy, the one who is departing from the Supreme Court, and we're looking forward to someone better than Kennedy. I was listening to James White on his podcast, Dividing Line, yesterday, and he was saying, he was looking at some evangelicals, so-called evangelicals, who were lamenting the fact that Kennedy is leaving. And he said, wait a minute, it's inconceivable. Look at this man's record. He betrayed Ronald Reagan, betrayed the pro-life cause, and sided with the abortionists. And his latest major crime was that he wrote the affirmative opinion to overturn marriage, the definition of marriage. So in other words, he promoted gay marriage. Disaster. Kennedy has been a total disaster. I mean, there's really nothing you can say to sort of prop up his legacy in anything good.
Right. When it came to the crucial moral opinions of the day, Justice Kennedy proved to be a complete flop.
Failure. Moral disaster.
He gets an F. And not only were the decisions bad, but the process in which they were made were bad. And I think
the logic, the thinking, the writing.
Right.
Oh, terrible decisions.
Very shallow.
If you read Bergethal, just childish.
It was about his opinion. And you can't make your decisions based on opinion. I found one thing he said about marriage in the decision: no union is more profound than marriage. No kidding. And who are you as a judge to redefine it? He redefined the God-given definition of marriage. Right. He felt he was superior to God in saying what marriage is. So to me, his moral understanding was way off the mark, as we see it evident amongst the statists, that is, the progressives in our country today.
Yeah, his record is abysmal. And so we don't need to find someone in the mold of Kennedy to keep a balance. We don't want a balance on the court. We have been imbalanced for the last 3 or 4 decades.
Yep.
And we're trying to bring back the sanity where you look at the Constitution, you read the Constitution, you read the words, you read what they mean, you come up with a meaning that the authors intended, and then you make your rulings on it. You don't craft policy and legislation from the bench. And so that's where we need to move. We don't need to have another Kennedy.
Right.
We don't need to have another stealth candidate that will betray the president's wishes.
Yeah.
We need to have someone who can read the Constitution and interpret it correctly.
Yeah. I mean, certainly Kennedy betrayed people who have, like you and me, firm moral convictions about the unborn and about marriage. But I will say, at least he was not like Breyer, Ginsburg, Sotomayor, and Kagan, in that he recognized the authority of the First Amendment over government, and therefore did not sign on with them with respect to the free speech issue of the pro-life centers that California was making them advertise abortion alternatives.
Right.
Good for him.
Well,
for
maybe he started to grow a conscience.
Yeah.
You know, maybe he started, in his older age, he started looking back on what he did, and he goes, man, I have propped up Roe v. Wade, I've kept abortion legal, and I've redefined marriage. Maybe I need to start trying to figure out ways I can redeem myself.
Yeah.
You know, maybe he's growing a conscience, but I don't know what the cause is. But we said before, you know, on some of these smaller issues, yeah, he's been good on some of these little things. I mean, there are rulings that we can all look at, both liberals and conservatives, and go, yeah, he was good on that.
Yeah,
he was good on that. Every side can see that he was good on certain things. But the big issues, disaster.
Right.
Gay marriage, abortion, he collapsed.
Yep.
Just totally sided with the secular humanistic
Yes.
pro-death culture. And no, we don't need someone in the mold of Kennedy. We need someone in the mold of Scalia.
Yes. He was not a fence
We need
straddler.
we need another Scalia.
Kennedy straddled the fence.
Oh yeah.
And we need no more of that.
No.
We need somebody who has not just moral convictions, but really understands the original intent of the Constitution, like Scalia would.
Yeah.
And he was an originalist. We need an originalist as well as a minimalist on the Supreme Court. I think William Rehnquist, the Supreme Court justice, was noted for being a minimalist, meaning he did not want to inject government into the affairs of men.
Right.
And what did Kennedy do with marriage? He injected government from the federal level upon all those other states that voted overwhelmingly to preserve
Imposed it.
marriage as being between a man and a woman.
Yeah, so he was an interventionist.
Yes.
He wanted to get government involved in all kinds of things rather than rein in government, keep the courts out of the government, keep the courts out of life as much as possible. Now let's talk about, switch gears a little bit. The process now that we need to be praying about as Christians is we need to first of all pray that President Trump selects a candidate or appointment, right?
Right.
And we need to pray that God gives him wisdom.
Right.
This is important.
And that he would stay true to that list he's submitted to those above us who know who's on the court. That is, those who would reflect our values and principles and are very aware of those kinds of judges that would govern in an appropriate way.
Now, do you think he has someone around him or people around him that actually know what this list contains and know the people?
Yeah, they know the 25, like I said before, Jay Sekulow would be one.
You think he knows, has a good idea who the good ones and the bad ones are on that list? Or are there any bad? I don't.
Yeah, there
are some better and worse.
Yeah, I think there's better ones.
Yeah.
I just hope that Hardiman does not get it.
Is that what Sekulow says is questionable?
Who was I listening to? Oh, I was listening to Glenn Beck the other day, and his sidekick Stu was mentioning that this guy Hardiman was friends with Senator Santorum, former Senator Santorum. Now, Santorum is pro-life.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
But this Hardiman just seems to be squishy on some things.
Yeah,
and I don't want anybody squishy.
No, we don't need it. We've seen enough of that.
Yep.
Because we need somebody who we can count on. Because what happens is when the president makes an appointment, then he gets the troops rallying behind that appointment. And we don't want to rally behind somebody who's going to be pro-abortion.
Right.
In the long run. I mean, it doesn't matter what they are now.
Yeah.
Where are they going to be when this hits the court's docket?
Yeah.
And where are they going to be when they get to the voting stage?
Yeah.
We want somebody that we can really feel good about. And so we need to really pray that whoever he puts forward really is pro-life.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've heard Ted Cruz speak of an Asian American. And I don't know his name, but
I've never
Cruz
heard of that.
said he was a cleric for Justice Thomas. So I think that would be in a mold that I would like a Supreme Court justice to follow, because Justice Thomas has been very consistent, very good, very steady.
And he doesn't say much.
Doesn't say much.
Very quiet.
Yeah.
It just goes about.
Doesn't have to say much, just judge correctly.
Yeah.
And for me, though I hear Ted Cruz saying what he did about this Asian American, that's fine. But like I've said before, I know where Mike Lee stands.
Yeah. And, at this point, somebody like a Mike Lee, where we know exactly what he would vote.
Yep.
It'd be great to have somebody like that, not fool around, not play around,
Right.
not play games. It should be interesting to see what this Judicial Committee hearings will be like this time. like we said before, you don't have to have 60% now.
No.
Just a simple majority.
Yeah.
And the conservatives own the Congress and they own the presidency. They don't have to really do a lot of the dancing that they did before. And so it should be interesting. Are they going to play it like they did before, where they're going to try to be vague and general? I think probably yes. I think the judges will try to, well,
Right.
you know, Senator, I can't comment on that, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I think they're going to try to do stuff like that. That's okay, just as long as we have a solid person.
Yeah. Yeah.
If we have a squishy person and they're doing that, that really doesn't give us much confidence. But let's talk about what could the opposition do to throw a monkey wrench into this whole thing?
Oh, they could play the emotion card, because that's very effective.
In what sense, though? I mean, say they get all emotional, but what would happen? Would it sway certain senators? Is that what you're saying? And
It could. I think, like I said before, Murkowski, for me, would be a questionable one. She's a Republican. Collins would be a questionable one. She's a Republican as well. But I think the Democrats really can't do a whole lot.
would they try to character assassin some
Yes,
of these
that's one
nominees?
thing they would do. Yeah. In other words, they'll try to dig.
They'll dig everything up.
Yep. Yep.
And talk about the desperation now on the left. We've talked about where we're coming from, but if you're on the left and you're a Planned Parenthood lover and you're an abortion lover and culture of death lover, what are you feeling right now?
You're feeling a little panic. You're sweating this one out for sure, because
But you're not going to just let things happen, right?
right.
You're going to do everything you can to
Right.
stop it.
Exactly.
So what do you do? Do you procedurally? Are there procedural ways that you can block?
They'll use every
Anything.
procedural availability to them to try to
To
stop
even
it.
pulling the fire alarm.
Yeah. 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 I could see it.
Can you see Dick Durbin or no? Who is it? Some of these other people pulling the fire alarm to prevent the vote, or having a bomb scare in the White House.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
But,
it's just anything. You're right. They're going to
Yeah.
do anything. I mean, we haven't even seen
Right.
the depths of depravity in trying to get your way, because this is Planned Parenthood we're talking about.
Yep.
They're willing to kill babies.
Yep.
They're willing to do anything
Right.
to get their way.
Yeah.
Anything.
And they will use the whole proceedings as a way to raise money for the campaign for the midterms, meaning they might not be able to affect this judge nominee directly, but they will do all that they can indirectly through fundraising to try to get the upper hand in the midterms.
Well, now the argument has been right off the get-go is, okay, we can't have these right now. We have to wait till the midterm elections are over and everything like that.
Yeah.
Are they still going to try to argue that?
They'll try to argue it, but then it can come right back in their face because Elena Kagan was nominated during the season of the midterms. So they really don't have a leg to stand on.
So they're going to give up on that? You think that
I think they'll
argument's
give
over?
up on it. Yeah.
This may be over?
They may make them initially, but they'll see that it just doesn't hold up under further scrutiny.
Now, some of the things we need to be praying about is that this process can actually take place. We have a plan. We see the finish line. Even the opposition sees the finish line. Jeffrey Toobin on CNN said Roe v. Wade will be over in 18 months. That's what he said. I mean, he said that to get people riled
Yeah,
up. He
I
said
think
that to
more-
get the left wing all
Right,
upset. Because
right.
he hopes that they get out and do something.
Yes.
But the question is, and we need to pray that the opposition can't do anything to block this process.
Right.
Because there's going to be more conviction on their side than ever before to
Yes.
stop this. They're going to, I don't know if there's, and Matt Walsh was saying in his commentary that we may actually see civil war, which is violence in the street. Not necessarily the whole nation fighting against the nation, but pockets of actual violence.
Yeah, you'll see demonstrations for sure. You'll see things similar to what we're watching now with these ICE protests, abolish ICE. These Occupy movements will garner attention, momentum, and volume. So there will be means by which the left will employ to try to cast a negative perception on the American public as much as possible over this Supreme Court appointment.
What about the strategy that I've already heard some evangelical Christians, like, well, I'm not sure if you could call her evangelical, Rachel Held Evans. I'm not sure if she's evangelical anymore. She's more liberal, Episcopalian. But she was saying it's not worth the social chaos that will result if Roe v. Wade is overturned. So the argument is we can't overturn Roe v. Wade because it'll lead to social chaos. There'll be civil war. There'll be violence. There'll be riots. We can't do it then. We have to leave the status quo the way it is for the sake of safety. That is...
No. Because that just sacrifices principle for convenience.
And it doesn't think of the babies that are killed.
Right.
So you have this grave injustice, but we can't touch it because it might hurt the harmony in our society.
That'd be like the slave owner argument.
Yeah.
We can't touch slavery because it will upset the social
Divide
balance.
the nation.
Divide the nation,
Yeah, divided the nation, but it needed to be divided on that.
There are some things where you just have to divide, and we're at this place now because the statists, that is the progressives, are anti-constitutional, not to mention anti-life. So there's a division there where you really can't compromise, and one can't. I don't want to say one can't exist without the other, but the two are so polarized.
It's a clear choice.
Yeah.
You have to come down on one side or the other.
Yep.
But now this raises the question: as Christians, when we're praying about this process, we're working toward it, we're talking to people about it. We can be Christian in our conversation, our civility.
That's
We
so
don't
important.
have to resort to the kind of dirty tricks that we will see. And I am convinced that we are going to see some really dirty, ugly things said and done to try to stop reversal of Roe v. Wade. But we don't have to play that game, right?
Right. It's not only a matter of what we say, but how we say it. And I really feel like the way we say it can be winsome. People will see the way in which we respond and see underneath what we say and say, these individuals really have a heart and I need to pay attention to what they are saying.
And treat people decently.
Yep.
And respect them.
Yep. Yeah.
If we're being interviewed on radio and there's someone who represents the pro-abortion side, we don't have to cut them off. We don't have to talk over them. We don't have to talk down to them. We don't have to insult them and put them down. Now, it's tempting if you have the pro-abortion person doing those dirty tactics. I mean, like the Sarah Huckabee situation. There might be some people on the right that would say, hey, you're going to play that way, we're going to play that way. No. Two wrongs don't make a right.
Right. It's unchristlike if you're a Christian and you claim to follow Christ.
And we don't have to do that because we have the truth on our side. We have arguments. We can sit and have a rational conversation about this. And we can show reasons why the Roe v. Wade decision is awful, terrible, not constitutional. And we don't have to go with this emotionalism that's going to... We're going to see a lot of that too, right?
Exactly.
We're going to see people crying over abortion. Oh, no, I can't have abortion. You're going to have all kinds of... The left does that, right?
Yeah, they're going to bring out the rhetoric of back alley abortions, abortions with a coat hanger, all these kinds of things
Everything
to try to garner sympathy. And they'll bring out the truck on that. But we who are Christians have the indwelling presence of the Holy Spirit so that we can remain poised,
self-control,
and composed. Yes. And I think
With conviction.
with conviction, that will present a wonderful case before people, and hopefully they can see that what we do matters as much as what we say, and the way we behave will not only will buttress the arguments we have.
And we can do things that can help this process along. One of the things that we do is that we write letters to the editor.
Yeah.
And you call into the radio and give your commentary, and we can interject into our society the truth, and just regular everyday Christians can do this too. When you're talking to coworkers, when you're talking to family members, when you're talking to neighbors across the fence, you can give basic truth arguments as to why it's better for
Right.
Roe v. Wade to go.
Right.
And say it needs to be sent back to the states. It needs to be dealt with on the local level. And we can give these reasons and arguments, and we can, if millions of people are doing that, it can
Yep.
have an effect.
Exactly.
But if we let the left play emotions and fear tactics and intimidation, then they're going to do it.
And if you let them frame the terms of the debate, that will be a strategy that they're going to implement to the fullest.
Yes.
And that's why we want to talk about this in terms of having a judge that's constitutional more than a conservative. Meaning, we want to take the politics as much as we can out of it, while also exposing the politics on their side.
Right.
Because they're going to use this term, progressive, over and over again. It's a term that sounds a lot better than statists, and that's what they are. That is,
So
they want to garner power within a small group of people and have them make policies, because that's the strategy of the left. Since they can't do it legislatively, they're trying to do it through the judiciary,
Right.
and that has been very effective
Right.
over especially the past 50 years.
Yeah, and another thing, we're going to wrap up here in a couple minutes, but another thing is we need to make sure that if there are voices in the Christian church that are telling Christians, and there will be voices, and there already are voices in the so-called evangelical movement, saying that we need to not touch the status quo, we need to be peaceful people, not get involved in all of this, and basically saying, let's keep the status quo, keep Roe v. Wade. There are actually Christians that say that if you attack Roe v. Wade, you're attacking minorities, you're trying to take away freedom, and they're basically playing along the leftist lies.
Yeah.
And we need to be able, and pastors, church leaders, denominational leaders, don't let that stuff slide. You need to stand up and say, no, we don't buy into that leftist propaganda. We need to end abortion.
Right.
It's important enough. We
Right.
need to at least end it in some states. Whatever we can do to stop the killings, we should do it. And it's more important than all of the immigration talk, of border this, that, or the other. All these other things are important, but when it comes down to human life, that's more important.
Yeah.
So we need to get our priorities right in the church,
Right.
and we need to fight for life, because this is an opportunity. We have an opportunity, finally. I mean, there are activists, Christians, godly Christian saints that have been praying for the end of Roe v. Wade for 40 years.
Yeah. It's possible.
I've been praying for 30-some
Yeah.
years for
Yeah.
the end of it. Every
And-
day, pretty much.
And the history of the Supreme Court has overturned itself. I mean,
Yeah.
here, Dred Scott, that was a classic decision that was made in the wrong, a very progressive one.
And it
you might
corrected
say.
itself.
Yeah, and they corrected itself. Or Plessy versus Ferguson corrected itself. The Korematsu decision, where Japanese were placed into internment
Oh, yeah, okay.
camps.
Yeah.
That was led by the Democrats. That was led by the
So-
progressives.
So, and that was corrected. So we can correct ourselves. We need to pray that this process takes place. We need to pray for our president, give him wisdom. We need to pray for our senators, that they don't cave in. I mean, the conservative pro-life are in the majority right now, but you know, there's a lot that can happen
Yeah.
between now and the vote, and
Yeah,
there's a lot of pressure. There's going to be a lot of you know, ungodly tactics used,
Right.
and we need to just pray that God gets his way.
Yeah.
Looks like he's orchestrating the end of Roe v. Wade, but again, we don't know the whole mind of God. We don't know what he's going to permit and what he's
Yeah.
going to allow. We just need to pray that this actually can happen and God gives us
Yeah.
abortion free, at least in some states.
Yeah, and specific senators to be praying for. We're going to be involved in the decision. Tester, Democrat senator from Montana. Heitkamp, Democrat senator from North Dakota. Their own elections. McCaskill, Democrat senator from Missouri. Those would be three right there that I can think of. And then two Republicans, I think, that might waver would be Collins from Maine, as well as Murkowski from Alaska.
And no Republicans would defect that we didn't even think of would.
Yeah, and then another Democrat senator would be from West Virginia. He's in a election this year. His name is Manchin. That'd be another one to pray for.
Yeah. So we've got plenty to pray for, and it's a great opportunity. We may be actually seeing the end of Roe v. Wade, and that would be a great moment. I think Matt Walsh was describing the fact if that were to happen and Roe v. Wade were to reverse, he would be crying tears of joy for the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Right.
And it would be a real cause of celebration in a very depressing political history of our nation in the last 20, 30 years. As we see basically every major thing go down, 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 down. This could be a bright light in a very dark culture. So we need to keep it in prayer. Well, Mel, thank you for this discussion.
All right. It's been good.
Thank you for watching Christ in Culture, and we'll see you back next week on the program. God bless.